What's up, guys? Jesse DeRozier here with Hydrilla Gorilla Guide Service in Lake Guntersville. This is week number 16 of my new series entitled What's on the Deck. And this week we did not have a lot of changes from last week. If you watched last week's video, you're going to see a lot of repeats. And the reason for that is not a whole lot has changed. The water temperatures, have continued to rise a little bit, but we haven't seen a big spike in water temperatures compared to last week. And as a result, the fish are just kind of trickling up towards the shallows. The rattle trap bite and the chatterbait bite have both gotten really good. The deeper bite is starting to fade off, but you can still catch them if you get in the right areas. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on the baits that we featured this week. So this week, same as last week, the 6 cents 70 Quake. That's a 5/8 ounce rattle trap, or lipless I should say. That specific lipless I like because of having that little bit extra weight. Allows for me to work that out a little bit deeper. The grass did die back quite a bit this year, and we are finally starting to see new growth. Starting to be able to pull that up off your hooks as you make a cast, and you're able to finally figure out what type of grass you're fishing, how tall the grass is, and if you're catching them out of a specific type of grass, being able to hone in on areas that have that grass growing. Now that you're able to start to pull in sections of it. The fish also seem to be holding in that 6 to 7 foot range right now, and this week I did go back to the Rapala DT6. The DT6, we had a little bit of stained water, so I'm again going with a brighter color. Your reds and chartreuses really stand out in that stained water and kind of help to be able to get some of those reaction strikes just as a shock color, if nothing else. So the DT6, being able to work that down these break lines, that 5 to 7 foot of water, has been very productive and will continue to do so as these fish continue to filter in from the deeper water. Up in the shallower water, again going with chatterbait, as I mentioned, been really strong. So basically attacking with two different patterns. You got a standard shad pattern. If I'm seeing a lot of bait fish activity, that is what I'm probably going to lean towards, just due to the fact that they're more than likely feeding on shad. If I'm seeing an absence of bait and I'm working through an area where I know that it's been productive in the past, or it fits the pattern for the fish migration that's going on, but I'm not seeing a lot of bait activity, that's where I'm going to lean towards my reds and greens. The bluegill are starting to move back in shallow, and as a result they'll be feeding on the bluegill as well. Starting to see some gizzard shad as well up there in the shallows, and as that gets a little bit closer, you'll see, probably, my guess would be probably next week, I'll probably have a pintail shad by Producer Swimbaits tied up on just a standard chatterbait head and be running that. And I like that profile. As these fish get closer to the spawn, they're looking for a big meal, and throwing that gizzard, more of a gizzard shad profile, a lot larger bait, can help you to be able to get some of these bigger bites. So that will be something that I'll be leaning towards as we get closer and closer to the spawn. I do expect the rattle trap bite to be good for another couple of weeks, but eventually that will start to taper off and the soft plastics will be starting to come into play in its place. The chatterbait, however, will continue to be good all the way up to the spawn and then even afterward. So keep those in mind as we go forward, going into the next couple of weeks, that some of these things that will be taking place in the transition of these fish, and what baits they'll be focusing on. Also, for our deeper fish, has this week been an Alabama rig, and same as last week is the jig head minnow. So that one in particular is on a ducket sway head, and I really love the roll that I get off of the ducket sway head. That paired with the Crush City freeloader seems to give me a really, really good rocking action. I've been throwing that on threadfin, and so I've been sticking with that smaller profile. The biggest thing that I have noticed is making sure that you're making adjustments to that specific head will really help in what you're getting. So a couple of the tweaks that I've been doing, first and foremost, is taking a pair of angle cutters. That jig head has 2 wire keepers on it, and those wire keepers, one goes up, one goes down. That's what actually holds the soft plastic in place. The prongs on it, to me, are a little too long, and they tear the plastic of my baits if I don't take a pair of angle cutters and actually snip those prongs off by half. So basically reducing the length of the prong by half. And they're probably at a little over 1/8 of an inch, so I'm going to snip them down to a 1/16 basically. And because there's 2 and you're grabbing top and bottom, it holds really well, believe it or not. You don't really need anything more than that. So once I feed it on there, the other thing that I'm doing is, as I get it close to where the prongs are fixing to enter the plastic, I actually spin the plastic just a little bit, push it on, and then spin the plastic back into position where it's supposed to be. By doing that, what it's doing is it's gonna tear a little bit of a trough through the plastic as it goes on. Better that that trough be not where those pins are actually gonna be holding against your plastic. So by spinning it, you're putting that groove in a spot. It doesn't matter. You can push it on, spin it back into place, and now those hooks are actually going to be holding against fresh plastic so that it won't be able to rip out easily. The next thing that I'm doing is taking some Avid Anglers fishing glue. That's Avid Angler Solutions fishing glue, and actually putting a drop of that on the head. And I'll take it and massage the plastic around a little bit, make sure I get a good coating all the way around, seat it up there, leave it, you know, for a few seconds, make sure that it's got a good adhesion before I actually submerge it. The last thing that I've been doing is making sure that I am adding a scent to my lures. I've been using Thump Gel. That specific one is the cranking gel. It just kind of matches similar to, you know, the colors of what I'm doing. I do like having the lanyard. Basically, I can clip it on my side and keep that at the ready at all times. So if you have a tube of this, I would highly recommend getting one of these, just so you're not having to, you know, fish around the boat to try to find that. It makes a big difference just having it on your side for reapplying as you're fishing. The third bait that we've been utilizing is, again, the Underspin. These fish that are out a little bit deeper, they have either been glued to the bottom, they've been in groups of 2 and 3, and we've actually had some that have been underneath bait balls still schooling. You'll actually see them if you're in the right place on the lake. You may actually see them knocking shad out of the water. And any of these presentations that I'm talking about for your deep water baits will absolutely work on those. But this one is the 3.5 inch producer swim baits in blue minnow, and it is on the Dirty Jigs 3/16 ounce guppy head underspin. And I work this one primarily on the bottom. Usually you can see that the nose, all the paint is worn off. I have been on the schoolers just throwing this out, dropping below the school and reeling this back in those circumstances. But if they're just the ones that are glued to the bottom, that's my go-to right there. Throwing it out and just reeling it along the bottom. But for those schooling fish, we have literally been able to catch them on all of these baits, as far as the A-rig, the jig head minnow, the underspin, and the last bait for today was probably one of the best applications for those schoolers, which is just a jerkbait. Now this week I got away from the painted sides, or that opaque colored jerkbait, because we went back to having sunny, high sun, windy conditions. So this one does have a little bit of a rattle in it because of the high winds that we were having. I needed something that had a little bit more weight that I could throw into the wind. This one has that weight transfer system, but it's not a very loud rattle. It's not as obnoxious as some of the others that are out there. But going with the flash in that sun made a big difference this week. It would grab their attention basically in that bait ball or below the bait ball. These fish actually were very, very aggressive, and we were able to catch quite a few fish on a jerkbait this week. The patterns, I don't expect to see a lot change in the upcoming week. The water temperatures are still continuing to warm, but they're not warming super, super fast. So as of day before yesterday, the water temps were 57 in the morning, and by late afternoon they were 59 to 60 as that water temperature warms from the high sun that we've had. But if you're in the back of a creek or you're up the river, you're going to see those temperatures being even higher. So keep that in mind based on where you're at on the river, where you plan on going. If you're going out this week, our mid-lake water temps on the main river are holding around that 57 degrees early in the mornings, and then rising based on what temps we have for the day. Now, as you can see behind me, I don't know if you've seen any lightning flashing or not. We do have some thunderstorms rolling through this evening, and with the rain, it may dirty up the water again. It may cool the lake off. It depends on, you know, how much that runoff is during the night in the cooler temperatures, or if it's more runoff from the warmer part of the day. So won't know until I get out there tomorrow morning kind of what I'm looking at. But again, making those adjustments for dirty water, like throwing something that's got chartreuse in it. Again, your deep reds will work really well in those conditions. And you're going to have to probably have a little bit cleaner water if you're going to be going with something that's more of a sight-oriented bait. But that's basically it for this week, guys. So not a lot has changed from last week, and may not see a whole lot, you know, change going into the following week. But we won't know until we get there as the week progresses and kind of see what all this rain and thunderstorms does to the lake, and we'll adjust accordingly. But just as a note, I did actually pick up a Carolina rig this week. I threw it out there just to see if they were starting to get on the soft plastics yet. As of yet, I didn't see a strong bite yet on the soft plastics. Not that I'm complaining. It's not really my cup of tea. But as that transition starts to take place, they'll start to lean away from the rattle trap bite and a little bit more towards soft plastics. Your chatterbait bite will still remain strong all the way up to the spawn, and then pick back up, you know, as soon as the spawn is over, and continue on. But that's basically it for this week, guys. Not really big changes. So stay tuned next week. We'll see how things evolve based on what weather conditions we've gotten over the next 24 hours. But y'all have a good one. We'll see you next week. Thanks.